Today in this beginner's series of tutorials I am painting the lighthouse at Cape, Florida in Key Biscayne, Miami-Dade County. You can see how to paint skies in the many previous videos. At first I've laid a wash on the left hand side of clear water and then coming in on the right side with dark, fusing into the clear wash on the left. And I'd like to quickly mention my site billholcomb.com, where you can order prints of my many varied paintings. Now back to the tutorial. So the shadow side of the lighthouse is a mixture of alizarin crimson and Windsor blue, and all the colours are Windsor yellow, alizarin crimson, Windsor blue. The paper is Arches 300-pound rough. Please like and subscribe, and then you will be notified of future videos, and it's all free. The brushes are small brushes in the main for the detail, number 4, number 2 and number 1, and then you'll see when we do the ocean and the waves it will be flat brushes most of the time. So those dark areas of the lighthouse structure are a mixture of the Windsor blue and the alizarin crimson. So continue with that. So I appreciate for this, the difficult part, of course, is the detail of the lighthouse, especially at the top. But the rest of the painting is quite good for beginners. I'm sure you can cope with the lighthouse too. So a much smaller brush for those very detailed areas. And so I laid down a light wash first of the darks, and then as that has dried, I'm laying in more detail, and then I'll go over some of the underpainting light wash with the darker version of the pigment. Do remember as well that when laying down the pigments, they do at first appear to be quite dark, but do lighten quickly. On the palm trees, I'm laying down first of all a light underpainting wash, mixture of the Windsor yellow and the Windsor blue. And then the shadow type pigment for the trunks of the palm trees. So once those light washes are laid in, then go to a darker version of the same colours, stronger version, to lay in the palms over the initial light wash. Using mainly a number 1 and number 2 for those fine details of the palms, so that you don't make them too thick and you get some shape to them. Then laying on the dark again on top of the light. For the various bushes and little trees around the base of the lighthouse and the rest of the beach near the lighthouse, I'm just scraping in a mixture of the Windsor blue and the Windsor yellow, varied mixtures, and using the scraping brush technique so that you end up with more interesting shapes and it's broken here and there. So the lighter pigments first of all, and then we'll go into darker version of those pigments later over the initial ground wash. Same technique for these other palm trees. And now scraping in some of the darker pigments on those various bushes and trees. So you get more interesting shapes when you scrape it. Now for the sand on the beach, a mixture of the Windsor yellow, but you can also add some other colours like yellow ochre, perhaps, in this wash, because that is particularly good for the sand colour, from what I've found. Now using a mop type brush, not too thick, probably something like a 10 or 12. And then washing up on the beach, we do have dead grasses come off from the ocean. Do an underpainting, first of all, wetting wet onto the sand. And the distant part near the bushes is a lighter colour. Then add in some of the darker dead seaweed, etc., and grasses on the beach. There is a stone jetty type that comes out into the ocean from the lighthouse, and lay that in first as an underpainting, and then whilst it's wet, you do your wetting wet with the darks to indicate little rocks here and there as part of that jetty area. And that all fuses in to give interesting shapes. You don't need to meticulously try to draw the shapes of every single rock out there, just do an indication. Now gone to the flat brush, half size, and laying in the distant part of the ocean near the rocks. Windsor blue. When we need that ocean part to be darker, we'll add some alizarin crimson to it. But for now, mainly just Windsor blue. And leaving the white of the paper here and there to indicate various waves cresting and foaming, etc. Do these as jagged and broken as possible, trying to avoid too many straight lines. And at a later stage, when the painting is dry, those pencil marks that I have there as indications can be erased with a light malleable rubber, or eraser, as they say in the USA. So continuing to do that broken up as much as possible, and then coming in on top, wetting wet, with a slightly darker version for the ocean. Then laying in some more sand, first of all, where the ocean meets a beach. And then whilst that is wet, I'm going to do a wetting wet with some of the blue colour again. Then as that has dried, I've gone to a quarter size flat brush and laying in some darker areas on the ocean where the waves are forming. I hope you have found this to be an interesting tutorial. I think it's a relatively easy one to achieve for beginners. That's why I've chosen it. And I hope you've enjoyed this and that you will like and subscribe so that you can see future videos. Thank you. Thanks for watching. Until next time.